Okay. Okay, good evening and welcome. This is the March 2nd meeting of the school committee. Let me to order 5:08. The meeting is being both audio and video recorded. I would ask everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if we could have a roll call, Samantha.
Sure. Samantha Velasquez, Secretary.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Antonella Rochella.
Gregory Thompson.
Amy Delenta.
William Strother.
Carrie Jerzewski.
Heather Brown, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning.
And Mr. Smith is absent today. He had a family issue to deal with, and wish him well with that. Okay, moving forward, we have minutes for approval. I would need someone to move.
Who's this?
I move to approve the February 9th, 2026 regular session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Anthony, second by William. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed nay. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Samantha. Committee and subcommittee communications. Carrie, would you like to start? Well, ain't that something?
Nothing.
Sorry.
Report.
Amy.
Nothing.
Great, that was easy. Moving along, opportunity for visitors to address the committee, seeing none. Board. We have presentation, superintendent's report. We have Meadowbrook, Maple Shade, and Mountain View's winter status reports. Who's up today? Elaine, you starting with us today? Yep. Great, so we will start with Mountain View. With Santino.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, so I'll start with our first SMART goal on the next slide, please.
Thank you, sorry.
That's okay. Supporting the whole child. So our first goal centers on fostering a safe, inclusive, and joyful learning environment by ensuring students feel valued and connected and ready to learn. We hope to see our attendance at the rate of 95% or higher and to reduce chronic absenteeism. We do this by communicating with Mountain View students and families, and by working with Chandria McCoy, our student belonging and family engagement coordinator. And if you go to the next slide, we have our data here. So currently, well, as of a week and a half ago, because we were supposed to be last Monday, our attendance rate right now is 96.7%. That's dropped a point and a half from the beginning of the year, but it's still above our goal of 95%. Our chronic absenteeism rate right now is 3.4%. which equates to 11 students at Mountain View right now that are considered chronically absent. A few of these students unfortunately have chronic medical issues, but some are also due to vacations and sports-related activities, which is the same every year. Last year, our chronic absenteeism rate at the end of the year was 4.5, and we had exceeded our target with DESE. So as long as we stay on track where we are now, we should meet or exceed our target this year. Chandria has been awesome. She's been coming to Mountain View regularly to meet with our counselors and with our students. She's attended a lot of our special events, and she's established communication with parents, which has been great. Another part of this goal is to have 90% or more of students report a strong sense of belonging on the Wellness and Climate Survey. So these three questions, are you happy, do you feel welcome, and can I be myself, are the ones that would fall under belonging. So we are currently at or above that goal for 2 of those areas. We dropped the be myself, I can be myself category. Not sure why. I think there's always a drop in the middle. We have the rest of the survey questions at the end of this presentation, and it's in a honeymoon when they first take the survey in the fall. And by the winter, we start to get a little sick of each other, so the numbers drop a little bit. But our counselors, when we look at the actual data from the survey, can see which students have either changed their answers from the fall or comment about why they may have chosen the answers they did. So they meet with them in lunch groups, or they meet with them individually to talk about whatever might be going on. Thank you. So this is the first of our teaching and learning slides. This focuses on academic achievement through implementing high-quality instructional materials, universal design for learning, and culturally sustaining pedagogy. We would like to see student growth in reading and math. We'd like to achieve 70% typical growth and 40% stretch growth in reading, and 65% typical growth and 35% stretch growth in math. So the first slide is our current reading data compared to the fall. So as you can see, 47% of our students are currently at or above grade level. That's up from 38% at the beginning of the year. And additionally, the number of students considered 2 or 3 grade levels below dropped from 23% to 10%, which is promising. I apologize, forgot to include a slide on growth, because we took the same presentation from the fall and adapted it, and we didn't have growth in the fall, so I forgot to put in a slide, but I do have the data on a separate piece of paper here so that I could explain it to you. Sorry. So in reading, currently, both 3rd and 5th grade are in the high performance, high growth area of the quadrants, and 4th grade is in low performance but high growth. Not sure why they are there instead of in the other category with 3rd and 5th, but historically, 4th grade has always been the tougher year for students to adjust, I think, to the rigor and curriculum at 4th grade versus 3rd. So that could be a reason. But they're still all in the high growth area, which I'm very pleased with. And math is the next slide. This also compares fall to current data. So 51% of our students are currently at or above grade level, which is up from 34% in the beginning of the year. In the fall, 47% of students were considered 1 grade level below, and that's gone down to 38%. 19% were considered 2 or 3 grade levels below, and that's gone down to 12% since the fall. In terms of math growth, both 3rd and 4th are in the high performance, high growth area. Grade 5 is in high performance, but low growth. Also can't explain why 5th grade is usually the grade level that performs the best in math. So could just be a mid-year blip, but we will see in the spring.
How was that cohort last year as 4th graders? Is that relevant?
4th grade is historically always usually the one, especially I feel like in math, that performs lower than the other 2 grades. I can say, I think an impact has been, we did lose our math interventionists. So that could be a reason. We also, in our enrichment teacher, did support all subject areas also, a lot of math and science especially. I can't say that's why. That would be the only difference between this year and last year. Okay. And then this big graph that took me a little while to digest. This is, and I did try to call you, Heather, today to make sure I was correct, but the district column is really the Mountain View column, correct? Because this is Mountain View's data. and it doesn't say the school date.
She did break it down.
Right.
Yes.
So that's a good
You called me
thing.
and I didn't call you?
You didn't answer, but it's not a big deal.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't in the office.
Out of the district.
Out of the school.
So these next two slides compare Mountain View's performance to the state and national year-to-date performance in reading and math. This is the reading slide. So where you see district, that's really the Mountain View number. So while the percentage of students at or above grade level is less than 10 points different between Mountain View and the state and national scores, we have significantly less students in the category of 2 or 3 grade levels below, especially in 4 and 5. So the first set of bars is 3rd grade, second is 4th, last is 5th. And if you look at the red area on all of those bars, we have significantly less students performing well below grade level, which I'm very happy with. And the next slide is math.
Elaine, that's that
Yes.
same 4th grade issue though, huh?
Yes, it is on MCAS too. MCAS scores in 4th grade have always been historically,
Only for the district, but not for the state or national. So it's,
which is unusual because in MCAS, it's always both.
right,
Yes. I can't explain why, because it's like 3rd grade, they're doing okay, 4th grade, they dip, 5th grade, they rebound. I really can't give you a reason why the 4th.
Are we not
graders.
pacing right? Is the curriculum not aligned?
The curriculum is very rigorous.
Yep.
I couldn't say for sure. Heather probably could answer this better than me.
Wouldn't that be significant?
A big jump in rigor from 3rd to 4th.
Difference on that 4th grade, the chart.
Yep.
Okay.
The curriculum is rigorous. The
Yeah.
books they read in 4th grade in a typical, if you were to ask people the level of the novels in 4th grade, us as adults would say we read them in 6th or 7th grade. So they're harder, but that's the goal. The point is to, make it rigorous, and the curriculum is recommended by the state. So, but Hatchet is one of them. That
will be replaced next year.
where the curriculum is also,
I'll tell you more about that later.
it's being revised. The company is revising the curriculum, so,
5th grade math.
yes.
Changing the subject?
So in 5th grade, math, everything else was pretty much the same with 3rd and 4th grade, but the 5th grade math, 62% are currently performing at or above grade level, which is 18 to 23 points higher than the state and national scores. Now that contradicts, if you go back to what I said about the low growth, high performance, low growth. So
Well, there's your high performance.
there's the high performance, yes. Growth is it's a hot topic for me, but,
Well, growth is relative.
so it's significant, it's a significant difference for our 5th grade math. We also have fewer students performing 2 or 3 grade levels below in grades 4 and 5. Grade 3's around the same with the state and nationally.
See, that same 4th grade cohort rocked it on the math.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's hard to come up with definitive reasons for year to year. You're comparing different kids every year, different circumstances, so it's hard to say why. So our last goal is inclusive and supportive culture and climate. And our goal is to have 95% of survey respondents report they're feeling happy, safe, respected, and treated fairly, and have all students have one adult at school at least that they can talk to. And the questions that are on this slide revolve around the questions that we would ask the families, the students, and the staff. We ask more questions on each survey, but these are the ones that align between the 3 surveys. So our data for fall versus winter is up here. There's minor dips again in the data for the first three questions, but we're still in the 90s percentage-wise. Again, I attribute that to it was the honeymoon in the fall and
Long cold winter.
the long cold winter is getting to them. We've had a lot of indoor recess this year because of the temperatures, and actually, there's a lot of kids that prefer it indoor, but, so the one that went up, which I was a little surprised at, was Mountain View enforces rules against hurting others. They say that 91% now instead of 87. I hear I have a little nickname about when they get in trouble, so maybe, it's not a bad one.
We don't wish.
It's, get the eye from Santee. That's what I heard. Yeah. It's not bad, could be much worse.
It's creative.
I have that mom eye, you know, that look that you give, so. So the bottom one, I just want to explain the difference at the bottom. Those two questions are the only ones that ask them to answer always, sometimes, never. So I put up the always and sometimes because the never is really not there, especially for the winter. 100% said always or sometimes for the staff treating students with respect, and students treat each other with respect was 99. So that's up from the fall questions. So this last slide, I just wanted to include, I'm not going to read them all to you, but these are all the events and after-school programs and spirit days that we've had, and I just wanted to point out a few interesting things. If you look at the after-school program list, 2 of those were initiated by students, the chess club and the knitting club. I've told you in the past, the chess club is very popular. It started last year, I believe, with a student asking our River Valley counselor if she would start a chess club, and she did. And I believe at some time she has up around 70 kids staying after school for chess club. They take the boards outside to recess, like they're really into it.
We have enough chessboards for 35 games?
Danielle is our counselor, and she is part of like the World Federation of Chess.
We mentioned that, yeah.
So she has multiple boards and
Cool.
whatever you call, I do not know how to play chess, the pieces. So she has that, they can bring it, they go to her office, they can take it outside. Because we have the tables that one of our former students did for his Eagle Scout project, so they like to sit out there. Yes, some kids aren't soccer players and, you know, want to go on the playscape, so it's great. The knitting club is new. Another 5th grade student wanted to learn how to knit, and his grandmother comes to school to teach a small group of 5th graders knitting on Friday afternoons, which is the last day of the week I'd have an after-school program, but they love it. Last year, we had a long-term sub that ran a crochet club, which was also very popular, and the kids are still doing it at indoor recess, but yeah, so the knitting club is new, and it's sweet that one of the students' grandparents is coming in to teach, so. And then the school spirit days, we've had 2 that were fundraisers, Rays of Hope and the PJ Day for Connecticut Children's Hospital. Both are charities that are close to our hearts for one reason or another. And we just ask the students to bring in $1. Of course, they're not required, but, and then we send the money off to those charities. The best school spirit day, though, was Freaky Friday. And if you go on our Instagram, you can see a lot of the pictures, but the kids dressed like us and we dressed like them.
That's awesome.
So we had people that specifically dressed like certain teachers, like Mrs. McCandlish. Mr. Potter had a lot of people dressing like him. I just dressed like a generic girl at Mountain View with the sweatshirt that would fit, you know, a linebacker on a football team, leggings and the UGG slippers, and walked around with a Stanley or a Walla. But it was very fun. We weren't sure how it was gonna go. It was the first time we did it, but it was awesome. And then the school and PTO events, two that are really, I think, significant. The Veterans Day Assembly is always very meaningful. We invite all parents or grandparents that are veterans to the assembly. They are honored in a slideshow. We ask parents to send in any pictures they have. We have pictures of grandparents from World War II. Like, it's a great, thing for the kids to see. They love seeing their family up on the screen. And we have a speaker, always a veteran speaker. So that's always a great assembly. And then the Zuzu Acrobats was a huge hit. We haven't had them in a few years, but they are originally from Tanzania, and they perform death-defying stunts in the cafeteria. At one point, one of them was balancing on about 4 chairs and his feet were touching the ceiling in the caf. And then they include the kids in like double Dutch jumping rope, a lot of that. It was great. Kids had a great time. So that's it.
Great. Any other questions? Excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Elaine.
Connor, you can go up next. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Hello.
Let me fill you in on what's been going on at Maple Shade since we last spoke. So, Heather? Okay, so supporting the whole child, much like Elaine, we share the same goals with this. Our average daily attendance rate will be 95% or higher. We will continue to work towards the absenteeism percentage, and we will work with the students so that their students' reported percentages on their surveys will be 90% or higher. So those are our goals regarding the students and how they're feeling and how they are attending our school. So this is where we're at with attendance and chronic absenteeism. So the good news is that we are above our goal for attendance. Unfortunately, we're not where we would like to be with chronic absenteeism. But with that being said, we do understand the story behind each of the students who are contributing to the absenteeism. Some of this involves health issues. Some of this involves struggles from the parental side of things. Some of this involves the Department of Children and Families having to be involved. So while this is resulting with a higher rate of absenteeism than we would like, we do understand exactly what is occurring with each of those students, and we're helping as best as we can. As you know, once a month, at the beginning of each month, I look at Open Architects to determine which families need a little bit of outreach based on the attendance and the absenteeism. So at the time of when this presentation was put together in early February, 59 families had been contacted. Of those 59 families, 16 families have been contacted at least a second time. 4 families have been referred to our family care coordinator, and like I said, DCF is involved in at least 2 at the moment to help provide some next steps and supports. So sometime this week, I will carve out some time to do my next round of outreach and attendance analysis in order to provide the next steps to families in order to ensure that we are able to meet our attendance and chronic absenteeism goals.
So how do students who are chronically absent achieve academic success?
It's very hard.
Yeah, that's the challenge, especially at the elementary level. Some are able to get by with innate talent, and then others, it is a struggle. And we see that reflected in their own scores.
Which is the push to get them here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens long-term, though, for those students?
We try to catch them up.
Yeah,
We try as best as we can.
yeah, okay.
And then here is supporting the whole child. Here are 3 student survey data points based on the student survey that they took in January. So 88.3% of students feel welcome at my school. 85.2 of students stated that they felt safe, and 89.4 stated that they have learned ways to resolve problems with classmates. So I will actually discuss these 3 along with the rest of the survey later on in the presentation when I discuss next steps that I'm taking. All right, so with teaching and learning, so 70% of students were looking to achieve typical growth in iReady reading by the end of the year. Last year, we did very well. 71% of our students met their iReady typical growth. 36% of students achieved their stretch growth in reading. We are looking this year for 65% of students to achieve their typical growth in math. Last year, 64% of students were able to do so, and 33% of students were able to achieve their stretch growth. So based on the success that we saw last year, I have full faith in the students in being able to achieve the goals that we have set forth for them, and I'm going to discuss the steps that we're taking based on what we're seeing right now with them. So if you remember from the fall, one thing that we had added into the schedule for this year is our GO time, growth and opportunity. So one thing that has been missing from the schedule at Maple Shade has been that next step, that ability to be able to work with students based on deficiencies that we're seeing in their learning. So Greg, to answer your question, what do you do with the students that aren't there or that are struggling academically? Prior to this year, we haven't had time to be able to address those needs that we're seeing with the kids. But this year we have additional time built into the schedule, which we're calling growth and opportunity, which allows the teachers to be able to address the needs that they're seeing based on what they're looking at with iReady and based on what they're seeing with the students in front of them all day. And after having just met with every teacher one-on-one for my mid-year check-ins, the ways in which the staff are able to use this time is varied. But as long as it's valuable to the teachers, and it has been, which is great to see, it's allowing for the teachers to be able to give some of that additional support to the students. So it ranges from allowing additional time for students to be able to tackle ST Math, for them to be able to get that supplemental math knowledge. Some of it has been to address the more foundational math fluency work that isn't necessarily built into illustrative math. Some of it has, some teachers are able to look at that day's exit tickets to be able to provide real-time reteaching in small groups. So some teachers are able to utilize iReady MyPath in reading to be able to utilize that time. So it's used in different ways, but the students are able to be able to get what they need during that growth and opportunity. In January, we put together our annual after-school assistance with our tutors. I reached out to the teachers to recommend students for both reading and math for additional just after-school tutoring. And as a result, we're closing up shop on our reading services, and we're going to move towards math next week. So for this go around, 17 students.
After school, just want to clarify.
Yes, after school, yes, yeah. 17 students were assigned to tutoring after school for reading. 47 students were recommended for math, and what I'm doing between now and Friday, I'm working with the families on which students are actually going to take advantage of this. So we're not going to get 47 students coming after school for math. But we will have at the very least, at least 17 coming for math.
Because of the students and not, the families not wanting to take advantage of the service, or?
Yeah, I mean, kids are, they're pretty busy after school, these days. So it allows for a conversation, with the parents, and, some parents are just gonna, opt out saying, my kid just needs a break, and I completely understand. And at least it opens up the door to that conversation where they'll be able to, at home, if they need some additional help in math, then the parents can do a little help with the kids at home, even if they don't come to after school. So it's different.
Transportation ever an issue?
It's never come up. No one has ever said my child cannot attend because of transportation. That's not a conversation that I've had, thankfully.
Yeah.
And then the final three bullets hasn't changed. We continue to have focused CPT meetings to ensure that the curriculum is consistent from class to class to class. We continue to have data conversations about what we are seeing in the classroom and on iReady and in ST Math. And the teachers continue to teach with fidelity. All right, so here is how Maple Shade is doing compared to the Mass year to date, the national year to date, and the national norm. So this is in reading. So third grade is currently outperforming the Massachusetts average, the national year to date, and the national norm in reading. Fourth grade is outperforming the Massachusetts average, the national year to date, and the national norm. Fifth grade is outperforming the national year to date in reading and is just below the national norm and Massachusetts average in reading. And all three grade levels have fewer students, 2 or 3 grade levels below than the Massachusetts average, the national year to date, and the national norm in reading. And in math, similarly, we're seeing success compared to these measures. Third grade is outperforming the Massachusetts average, the national year to date, and the national norm. Fourth grade is outperforming the Massachusetts average, the national year to date, and the national norm. Fifth grade is outperforming the Massachusetts average, the national year to date, and the national norm. And all grade levels have fewer 2 and 3 grade levels below than the Massachusetts average, the year to date, and the national norm. Here are the comparisons between how we stand right now compared to the fall. So in the fall, 33% of our students were in the red, and at this point, 15%. We have shrunk that down to 15%. In the fall, 37% of students were above or at grade level, and currently we are at 54% in reading. So we are making those gains. We are moving in the right direction. And in math, 24% in the fall were 2 or 3 grade levels below. Currently, 15% is where we are at. Conversely, 30% in the fall were in the green, and currently 50% are in the green. So again, we're chipping away and moving in the right direction. I wanted to see, this is a slide that I'd never really looked at before, but I looked at the data last year compared to this year. So it's important to see students growing compared to, how grade levels did the prior year. That's always important. But I wanted to see how our students are doing compared against themselves last year. So our current fourth grade cohort, they are currently outperforming their own growth from where they were last year when they were in third grade. And similarly, our fifth grade is outperforming where they were at last year at this time when they were in fourth grade. And that's both for math and reading. So our students continue to grow where they have been.
Can I ask a quick question here? And Connor, it might be, are you or Elaine or either, preparing for this meeting, I was trying to look at some of the data, both from each individual school, Mountain View and Maple Shade, and comparing the two. And I was having a really difficult time finding patterns that made sense to me. I don't know if anyone else had a similar experience, or if obviously you all, communicate frequently about this type of thing. I was just wondering if anyone would be able to weigh in a little bit on that, or.
I mean, you touched upon a little bit on this, Elaine. It's very hard. There's just so many variables year to year.
Yeah, from grade to grade. So,
Yeah, from grade to grade,
subject,
from year to
math
year.
looks great, and then in your school, maybe not, but then in your school, something else looks great.
Yeah.
And there's a dip. I'm looking for patterns, and I'm not finding anything that really makes sense.
You'd have to dig deeper into the data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there hasn't been one solid answer to guide us,
Not that I'm asking for it, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you had thoughts at this.
You can disaggregate it in many different ways. Start to see those patterns, but it's hard at an aggregate level.
And when you've done that, disaggregating, are you seeing various patterns that are coming up? Even from grade to grade?
You also have, we're the anomaly, right? Because we have the same grade levels, no one else has that ability to compare, but Connor and I both have different, substantially separate programs at our school with different needs.
So to take those out as a factor would be
You
helpful
took
too.
those kids out of the equation in each school and just looked at the aggregate in the typical classrooms, it might look different. We both have a learning center, but we have kids in our learning center that are very different, different subject areas. I have the autism program. Not all of those students take iReady, but the ones that do, their scores would impact the overall average, so there's a lot of things that go into it. Like Connor said, even with attendance, he might have kids that are struggling more than some of mine in different areas. It's hard because we're the only ones that can get compared. So it's hard to say.
And I wasn't trying to,
No, I mean, it's,
I was just
I understand.
wondering if you had
Yeah.
communicated, obviously you have, about different kind of underlying causes of some of that.
Teachers are on the same pace. They're using the same curriculum. It's just the kids. That's why I always had a problem, specifically with MCAS, when the state would compare how my third grade did last year to my third grade this year. They're completely different kids. You know what I mean? I totally understand where you're coming from, but it's really hard to pinpoint a reason.
okay. So this is our growth data. So in iReady reading, 53% of our students have made their typical growth. 23% of them have made their stretch growth. So at midpoint in the year, this is healthy data to look at. And then in math, 24% of our students have met their typical growth, and 9% have met their stretch growth. Historically, when you compare math and reading against each other, the math data at this point of the year tends to be lower than the reading. Part of that is because iReady assesses students on standards that they haven't been exposed to in the curriculum yet, but by the end of the year they will have, which is when we start to see that surge.
So iReady doesn't align with the curriculum in terms of pace.
Computer adaptive tests, so as the kids answer questions, if they're getting a lot right, they give them harder questions. If they're getting a lot wrong, they get easier, so that it's not necessarily at their grade level. It depends on how they perform. The MCAS is straight up, this is the grade level, yeah.
These are all the data points that I've already touched upon. I just wanted them in one place as well, but we've covered that. This was interesting to me. I met with our ST Math coach, who was very celebratory of the work occurring at Maple Shade because we've had a very successful year so far with ST Math. If you remember, every year we have a goal of completing 80% of our journey in ST Math by the end of the year. Based on the success that we have had so far and us exceeding our checkpoints along the way, we are now projected to hit 96% by the end of the year, which is fantastic. But this chart that you see here is objective data, which aligns with what the students themselves are self-reporting from a subjective lens. So what this is, it shows the amount of times students are trying and trying and trying on questions before they ask for teacher assistance. So this lends itself to students when they self-report how they will try and continue to try before asking for help or think of different ways to approach something. So being persevering, working towards productive struggle and growth mindset, these are all elements of Maple Shade Elementary School that we have worked on throughout the years. It's why we have our academic adventuring award, where we want our students to be able to find the adventure in the challenging learning. And this is something that we celebrate, we highlight. We have our Persevering Penguin Award for students who do just this on ST Math. So this shows that our students are just not throwing in the towel. These are students who are pushing through, they are trying new strategies, and just really giving it a shot before they are asking for help. Okay. So in terms of our inclusive and supportive culture and climate, so we want 90% of our students to report that they're happy. We want 95% of our students to report that they feel welcome. 95% of our students, we want them to report that they feel safe. And 90% of our students to report that they have at least one trusted adult at Maple Shade. And then here are some results from the more recent survey. So 82.5% state that they feel safe. 97% of students state that they treat each other respectively. 95.1% of students report that, whether it's sometimes or always, that the staff treat students respectfully. 92.4% of students, and this lends itself to the ST Math data that I just shared. When I feel work is hard, I keep trying. 84.8% of students report that I have at least one adult at school I can talk to. And 84.8% of students that my school enforces against hurting others. So we recently just looked at this data with, I looked at it with my adjustment counselor and guidance counselor to start to determine how to best utilize this data and address it with the students. So in our social emotional classes that are taught by our adjustment counselor and our guidance counselor, we are going to continue to focus on kindness in order to make sure that our students feel as though this is a welcome environment for them and that we are giving them the tools needed in order for them to be kind to one another. So they are launching this week and next week a kindness activity. We're going to be following up with that with students having the ability to recognize and shout out each other for acts of kindness that they may see, and then we will display these cards in the hallway. Students regularly, if they are caught being made in the shade, the acronym that we use to address the values that we want to see from our students as students at our school, strive to be hardworking, actively engaged, determined to succeed, and empathetic in all that we do. We're going to be focusing on that empathetic in all that we do piece. So teachers are going to be looking out for students who are being kinder to their classmates, the ones that are demonstrating empathy towards their classmates and others, and they will get shouted out for that, and they'll be able to serve as role models on the morning announcements with me, which also gets shared with their parents, so it's all celebratory. I've looked at this with our principal advisory committee as well, to start to share that information, just so we know what we're looking at in terms of what students are self-reporting. But the biggest next step for me, if you want to move to the next slide, Heather, is right here with action steps, where it says next steps Shade Squad. So one of the benefits to me having served on the superintendent search committee was being able to jot down and take notes of best practices and ideas that our potential superintendent candidates have utilized in their buildings and in their districts. And one thing that I heard over and over again was having a student representative body. So what I did is we messaged this out to students, and what we did was in each homeroom, if students wanted to represent that homeroom and the perspective of the students within that homeroom on a larger body, they would need to submit an application to first weed out those that are more interested and more serious about this than others. And then those that submitted an application then had to campaign and prepare a speech, and there was a voting process. And so now we have assembled our Shade Squad, and we will be meeting next week. And one of the things that I want to do, I want them to look at this data, and I want to get their perspective on what they think this data means from the student perspective, and what we need to know as adults in the building with how the students themselves are feeling. So I'm going to be leveraging this group to really get into to how students are feeling in the building. So that's everything else that you see is nothing new with Maple Shade, but that's the next big step for the students in the building.
Did you create a probing question in the superintendent screening process? Is that why you got this information? You actually asked the question, or?
Well, I mean, I didn't ask that particular question, but it just came up, and that was one that I had heard, again and again and again. Which is good, because I'm always looking for that next thing that I can utilize.
Great.
Connor, did this process end up with some diversity across the representation in terms of race or IEP status?
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, our Learning Center kids are in there, and yeah, it's pretty diverse.
Perfect.
So it will change year to year?
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah, every year there will be a new voting process, and based on the homeroom makeup that we get.
love it.
And I'll just let the kids kind of lead the way.
Within parameters.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Anything else?
Okay.
No, great. Thank you, Connor.
you.
Appreciate it. Nice that you made it. Just kidding.
Both in our calendars for 5:30, so when Kate called me, I was still sitting at my desk at 5:08. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever made it tonight.
Get in your car.
My life.
Thank you for being here.
Sorry, Officer Healy.
It's official business.
So it feels especially fitting that we're beginning our mid-year update with the Supporting the Whole Child goal, because today was International SEL Day. And so our first part is focused on supporting the whole child. At Meadowbrook today, we had a little bit of a celebration for SEL Day, so you were all reminded to smile. Our staff and students were invited to wear shirts with positive messages on them, and we had a video read aloud from Superintendent Smith of the book, The Smallest Spot in a Dot, and the counselor shared out some little SEL activities that teachers could do in their classroom. So with that context in mind, looking at our supporting the whole child SMART goal, we start off with attendance. And we continue to focus on our attendance rates, the same as the district. Our goal, you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm still with my eyesight again today. The goal for the 25-26 school year was 95%, which is the target set by DESE. As of February 15th, our rate was 95.8%. At this time last year, it was 95.3. So we're currently exceeding both the DESE target and slightly ahead of where we were last year at this time, which I think puts us in a good position to meet our end of year targets. For chronic absenteeism, which as a reminder is missing 10% or more of their days enrolled, our goal is 5% or less. As of February 15th, we were at 6.6%. I was a little disappointed when I first looked at that, thinking, oh shoot, why are we so high? But then I remembered we have so many days left in the school year. So that rate tends to go down as the school year goes on. I looked at where we were last year. Last year at this time, we were at 10%. So we're in a much better spot than we even were last year at this time. And last year we ended at 5.5%. So I feel like we're probably on track for meeting our goal for this year. We continue to face challenges with family vacations, athletic events, and a significant number of students with chronic health issues. Of that chronic absenteeism percent, it makes up 25 students right now. Of those 25 students, 10 have known health issues that are impacting their daily attendance at school. And they're all pretty significant things. This is not kids with strep or something like that. These are chronic conditions. We've made 10 referrals to the care coordinator for chronic absenteeism. 2 of the students are being followed up with by our school counselor, and 3 we're just monitoring right now to see if they need a. Sorry. What are we doing? Same thing we've been doing, which we've had good success with. We've been sending monthly letters for students with 5 or more absences. We did tweak that letter this year to add a percentage of student attendance on there to give the parents a different way of looking at it. So it doesn't just say your child has been absent 12 times, it's 12 times for an attendance rate of 88.3%. So it gives them a different way of looking at it. We've also continued communication regarding attendance expectations and what chronic absenteeism looks like. And we've done individualized follow-up with certain families and made referrals to DCF as appropriate or warranted.
Another part of our goal under supporting the whole child relates to DESA implementation. As a reminder, this is year 2 of our implementation. We use DESA Mini as a universal screener for all students, and then DESA 2.0, which is more in-depth. It's a screener as well for students identified as needing more targeted support. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So in looking at our school-wide data for DESE, 6% of students were identified as needing instruction, 70 in the fall. 79% were in the typical range and 15 were in the strength range. At mid-year, we have 6% remaining in need, 69% are in typical, and 25 are now in the strength range. The percentage of students requiring intensive support hasn't changed, but we have seen a 10% growth of students demonstrating social emotional strengths. So this is probably suggesting that our tier 1 universal supports are not only maintaining the skills, but they're also helping students grow stronger in various competencies. If you go to the next slide.
Myself.
Oh, you did, sorry, thanks. Looking at the DESA 2.0 scores, which provide deeper insight into the strengths and needs of students identified in the DESA Mini, as we're seeing growth across nearly all competencies. Most notably, the social awareness needs decreased from 42 to 27%, and then self-awareness decreased from 48 to 36%. So what do we think is driving this progress? In Tier 1, we've completed second step lessons for grades 1 and 2, and that includes a bullying prevention program. Kindergarten lessons are going to be wrapping up soon, and we created the school-wide behavior expectations for lunch, recess, arrival, and dismissal. They were explicitly taught at this time of the year and then revisited and reinforced after winter break. And we plan to expand on this for next year and add areas in other areas like the hallways or the bathrooms. For Tier 2, DESA 2.0 is being used to guide small group instruction. Intensive kindergarten RTI groups were implemented earlier this year by our kindergarten counselor in helping to prepare for our new counselor, transitioning to a new counselor. Groups were paused for a short time due to that transition between counselors, but they're gradually resuming, and they're going to resume more because we're excited to welcome Christina, I can't look at it, Giannakopoulos, to the team on March 9th. So we hired her as our third school counselor.
Nice.
Yes, very exciting. We're also working with River Valley Counseling to facilitate a 6-week first grade SEL group. This is going to be focusing on social emotional awareness, self-regulation, friendship skills, and problem solving. And that will be conducted by Tara Donovan, who is a master's level clinician at River Valley. She already provides individual therapy to Meadowbrook students. And then our Tier 3, students are continuing to receive individualized counseling and targeted instruction. And our special ed staff is using everyday speech, which is evidence-based curriculum for social skills development.
Under the teaching and learning goal, we use the USNS, which is the Universal Screener for Number Sense, as our early math screener in kindergarten. So we don't have iReady data for kindergarten. This screener helps us see how well our students are doing in basic foundational math skills like counting, comparing numbers, subitizing, and number combinations. Those skills are an early indicator of later math success. And this USNS data also helps us determine which students might need math intervention services. So last year, we ended the year with 71% of our kindergartners scoring proficient. And this year, our goal was 75% proficient. And what you see up there is our mid-year data, which is showing we have already exceeded our goal at 75.7% of our kindergarten students scoring in the proficient range. 22.4% in the basic range, none in the below basic, and less than 1%, which is one student scoring in the well below basic range. So we are well on track to meeting our goals for kindergarten. For first and second grade, we do use the iReady. We also then, once we get our iReady scores, give them the USNS to dive a little bit deeper into foundational math skills, and that information is used to drive who we pick up for math interventions. Our goals for the 25-26 school year were based on typical and stretch growth this year, which was a first for us. We usually base it on that other color-coded graph you're used to seeing. So when I first sat down, well, let me tell you the goal first, but 65% of first and second graders reaching typical growth, which would be up from 59% last year. I first sat down and looked at this graph and I was honestly a bit discouraged. I was like, 28% of kids are on target for meeting this goal. And I got myself all worked up, as I tend to do. I stepped away from it and came back and was like, whoa, you're looking at this all wrong. And I thought about it a little bit differently. What that 28% actually means is that 28% of our students have already met end of year targets. So after having a complete panic, wondering what in the world was going on, I felt a little bit better. And then in looking at that even deeper, 16% of our students, in addition to that, are in the 80 to 99% range, and 13% are in the 69 to 79% range. So at the midpoint in the year, we'd expect students to be around 50%. We not only have 28% of our students already making a full year's growth, but another 29% are already beyond the halfway mark. So 57% of our students are already at 60% or more of their typical growth. In order to make sure I wasn't, again, misinterpreting, I contacted iReady and they said, yes, that is spot on. So I was kind of a little bit more relieved. This next graph is going to show you what we more typically, if you could advance the slide, Heather, what we more typically look at and what we used to base our goals on. It's just another way of looking at the iReady data. It shows overall movement in grade level placement. The first graphs are from last year. I just left them there for your reference. The bottom graphs are from this year. At the beginning of the year, 14% of our students were on or above grade level, and by mid-year, we've increased that to 40%, which is a 26 percentage point increase. And notably, we've also reduced our students performing well below grade level or two grade levels below, from 16% down to 5%, which tells me our interventions and core instruction are helping move students in the right direction.
And Renee, the one above is from fall to the end of the year, whereas this is middle, okay.
Correct.
No, it's not, you can't compare.
And that next slide shows you our comparison, similar to the other schools. We are outperforming both state and national progress at the midpoint in the school year. The last slide for math talks a little bit about our intervention numbers. To accelerate intervention at the start of the school year, rather than waiting until the first round of assessments were done, analyzing the data, picking kids up, we implemented boost groups based on end of year data from last year. So we picked up 37 students who participated in the boost group. And by the time the fall benchmark occurred in the end of that 5-week cycle, 54% of those students had shown that they'd reached grade level progress and were able to exit intervention. With the fall benchmark, 17% of those 37 stayed on and moved into the first full round of intervention, and we picked up another 27 students, which meant 44 students were receiving intervention. The January benchmark, 25 of those 44 were then released, which was 57%. They made enough progress to exit intervention, and we picked up another 19 for additional support. So we had a total of 41 students currently receiving math intervention. And across all of the intervention cycles, more than half of each cohort has been able to exit due to instructional impact and making progress.
It's me. Oh, sorry. It was back a slide. As a reminder, we use DIBELS to monitor early literacy development in grades K to 2 instead of iReady. We administer it 3 times a year with opportunity for progress monitoring in between assessments. And DIBELS measures phonemic awareness, decoding, fluency. These are the skills foundational to future reading success. Our goal this year is that 75% of students in grades K to 2 will score at or above grade level on the DIBELS composite score. Last year, 72% of our students met this benchmark, but that was based on the predominant measure, because we eased into it, so we didn't give all the subtests, so we weren't able to use a composite. So it was a little tricky to come up with a goal. So
We're taking a bit of a shot in the dark because we were basing it on one measure last year, whereas DIBELS has many measures. So this year we looked at all the measures and set a goal based on that. But one of the things that really got me thinking about was setting goals for this year's cohort based on where last year's cohort ended. And it really got me thinking, is that really the best way for us to be setting our goals, or should we be waiting for the fall benchmark and seeing where our students currently are and where we need to get them? So I had some thoughts around that.
all right, so at this point, we only have mid-year data for first grade. Kindergarten and second grade, our benchmarking began today, so that data is not available. First grade was benchmarked a little earlier so that we would have data for the DESE Amplify tutoring program. In first grade, we saw growth from fall to winter. In the fall, 56.8% of students were at core or above. At mid-year, the number increased to 60.1, so we're seeing steady upward movement. One thing to point out is the shift from intensive to strategic, or red to yellow. Through targeted intervention, we moved 9 students out of our highest risk category. This is a good indicator that we're continuing to see gains as the year progresses. Another thing to note about using the composite score on DIBELS for our goal is that the benchmark itself increases throughout the year. So the target rises from 330 at the beginning of the year to 389 mid-year and 441 by the end of the year. So the expectations become more rigorous as the year progresses. You can go to the next one. Similar to math, to accelerate intervention at the start of the school year, the literacy team ran 5-week boost groups based on end-of-year data. 68 first and second grade students were seen during the boost groups. Following the first round of benchmarking in the fall, 12 kindergarten, 33 first, and 37 second grade students were identified for a total of 82 students receiving reading intervention. We only have numbers for winter for first grade since we just started benchmarking, but the first grade 10 students were exited due to sufficient progress and 9 new students were identified for intervention. So tutoring has focused primarily on students below benchmark in the composite score. Sessions are individualized based on DIBELS subtest data. That data drives the tutor's instruction. Because first grade was receiving tutoring through the Amplify program, it actually freed up our tutors for a bit and allowed them to push into classrooms as well. So for a period of time, they were supporting instruction directly in 2 first grade classrooms and 4 second grade classrooms.
The number of students assessed, those are referred in for assessment because they're not all assessed, right?
Based on the DIBELS,
Yes. So you, in round 1, you have 103 in the kindergarten assessed, 51 in the first, in the second one. What dictates those students being assessed?
They were progress monitored.
Okay. They're not all assessed.
No, it was
so red and yellow.
kind of similar to what I was describing with the iReady, and then we do the USNS. That was a deeper dive. So not every student gets assessed with every round. They were all assessed in the fall. If you see, it was 148.
Oh, okay, yep.
And then they're all assessed again in January.
I see.
It's just progress monitoring.
Roger that. Okay, thank you.
Beyond tutoring, our literacy coach is working with small groups and individual teachers during common planning time. They're sharing strategies and resources aligned to student needs. We built a dedicated small group instruction block into the schedule this year, and we're continuing to refine how to use that time as effectively as possible. One area we have identified as area need and a limitation of foundations is that there isn't enough opportunity built in for applied practice. So our literacy coach is working with our teachers on ways to increase that. And there's a revision of the foundations program coming out, maybe, that we're hoping, to address some of those gaps.
And our last goal focused on inclusive and supportive culture and climate. We've really focused a lot of our work in this goal around celebrating the diversity within our community and making sure all students and families feel a sense of belonging. We partnered with Chandria for most of our goal this year, which has been fantastic. It's been really nice. She's been a consistent presence in our building. I feel like every few days I turn around and she's there doing something, which is wonderful. She's been working with small groups of students during the lunch block to build relationships and create space for connection. This relationship building, I think, is particularly important at the youngest grade levels because we're just bringing these students and families into the ELPS community. So helping them feel a part of the community and form those connections as they move up through our system is really important. She's also been to a lot of our evening events, some that I didn't even know she knew about. I turned around and there she was standing there saying hi to everybody. So second part of our goal in this area was really on improving the onboarding process for students in the METCO program. In the past, we had been getting the names very late, sometimes as late as like July, which was making it very difficult for those families to be part of the entire kindergarten registration process. We begin sending letters home in February. We have registration night in March. We have screening in May, and we really wanted those families to feel part of that whole process. It's become a little bit more complicated than I had hoped. I didn't realize that there were a number of other districts involved, not just East Long Meadow. So something that seemed simple to me, which was just get those names earlier and shift the timelines back, is not as easy as we had hoped because it's impacting the other districts as well. We are getting the names much earlier, though. Chandra was able to ensure that we're going to get those names by late April. So they're going to miss, unfortunately, the information night this year, but we're hopeful we can get them on board for the screening process. They get screened anyways, but I'd rather them be part of it in May than wait until September when we're screening everyone else. And then we're going to keep that conversation going with Springfield. Ms. Chandria is actually meeting with not only Springfield, but all the other partner districts. So I'm hoping that can be part of the bigger conversation and getting those names a lot earlier. And then we're also continuing our character assemblies, and we brought Chandria on board for that this year as well. She's going to be conducting an assembly for us at our school with the book All Are Welcome, which is focused on diversity and belonging. And we are hoping that will deepen school-wide conversations. We're going to do some activities following that book back in the classroom afterward as well. That is our mid-year update. Anybody have any questions that I can answer?
Anything else for May and Kate? Excellent. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Elaine, how are the rooms coming, the new ones?
Don had a tour over vacation. Can't get in yet from
Okay.
the building, so
Yep.
I haven't been in
Don't know.
there.
Okay.
But there is a hallway, which I didn't know there was gonna be one. I thought it was just gonna be 2 rooms,
Right.
like the end of the hall, but there is a hallway to go into each room, so the 3rd grade will still, we haven't been able to this year, but they'll be able to go out that way to recess. Right now, we have them
Oh, yeah.
coming all the way through the school, because there's no way for them to get outside.
Can we get back in that door? Somebody mentioned that.
Can you
Is there
get?
a keypad on, there's not a key swiper on that
But
door?
there- If IT can put one there.
Look into that, recess
That's
wise?
probably something they could do after. I mean, I don't think it has to be.
I'll ask Ryan about it, yeah.
Because he's put in the ones, the car line door and the parking lot behind the gym. Didn't
He retroed those?
originally have them, and
Okay.
so he put them in after.
Okay, great, cool.
I'd love for them to be done I would love to be done before MCAS starts, but that's not gonna happen.
Next year,
Really short on stuff.
by fall.
It was supposed to be March.
I know,
Good night.
only a couple $1,000,000.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving along, we have the FY 2027 budget development discussion.
Curriculum update.
As I said, we have 5.3.1 curriculum updates from Heather.
Okay, I wanted to give you a status of where we're at. I just made all these piles, so I have to find my notes, sorry. In terms of the high quality instructional materials that we've implemented, as well as some updates that are coming. Oh man, all this paper, I should never have opened this.
Heather, do you want mine?
No, it's my own notes that I'm missing. Here they are. All right. So I just wanted to point out again that we're getting high-quality instructional materials for several reasons. But the biggest one is about making sure all kids are getting access to grade level content and skills. The nation, not just East Longmeadow, there's a whole journalistic expose on how we used to teach reading. And it was about getting kids to read at their level. And the problem with that is, while it might help them with decoding and fluency at their level, they're getting deprived of the vocabulary, background information, and syntax that they need to be able to access that higher, the grade level content. So with ELA, what we've been doing is we use foundations for the word analysis, so all kids are learning how to crack the code, if you will, and learn how to read independently. But then with the wit and wisdom, and I'll talk about the update to wit and wisdom, all kids have access to the grade level text. If they can't read it, we have a variety of different things to help them read it independently, and also at the younger ages, the teachers will read it, so the kids are exposed to all of this rich text that's going to help them ultimately comprehend. So that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is that instead of spending time curating information and materials, the teachers can really take their planning time and say, how am I going to scaffold this? What accommodations do I need to put into place so that all kids can access this? So just wanted to kind of give the why again. And you can interrupt me at any point. I promise this won't be super long. So Meadowbrook, for ELA, they use Heggerty for phonemic awareness, Foundations for the word analysis, and wit and wisdom for that language acquisition that I was talking about, all the other parts of what they call Scarborough's rope. Foundations is going to be updated, and like they talked about, Tracy, the literacy coach, has been working really hard to create systems and structures and get teachers familiar with them so that kids have more time to actually apply the skills they're learning in Foundations and read and decode and practice and work on their fluency independently. That's going well, and I think that with the Foundations update, that will be an easier transition. Math is still illustrative math. We are going to illustrative math 360 next year, which is just an update. It's not a new curriculum. I just wanted to be clear about that. They have made some changes based on feedback, and it's great. It's not a huge shift. At this point, they use teacher-created materials for social studies and, I meant to put science, I apologize. Down the road, when we really feel like we've gotten these other things under our belt, there is investigating history for not K-2, I should talk about that later, but there's Open SciEd, which is, we're using at 6 to 8, that's moving all the way down to the younger grades. That's something for later. Sorry, I did mean social studies history. Science, we use mystery science, and you had asked about that, so the SEL curriculum is second step for Tier 1. Maple Shade and Mountain View have Foundations. Foundations is now rolled out 4th and 5th grade curriculum that is not as intense or long as the K-3, but it really helps with the morphology that they need to work on, more vocabulary, more fluency practice. So they are also moving to arts and letters next year, which is revised wit and wisdom. Most of the teachers are very excited about this because basically the people who created wit and wisdom heard all the feedback from teachers and have made things much more student-friendly, much more teacher-friendly, much more culturally responsive. And instead of 90-minute lessons, they're 60-minute lessons. So some 4th and 5th grade teachers reached out and said, if we're only going to have 60 minutes of this curriculum, what are we doing with the other 30? And it's like, that is a perfect time to do some more of that foundational work. So they're going to be getting those materials next year. And they continue with illustrative math. And next year, they're using teacher created, but a lot of folks have reached out to me about other things. And so we can help them pilot investigating history. I am working on writing a grant right now to get those materials and PD paid for so that we can do that, because I'm already trying to do that for 6th and 7th. So 3, 4, and 5. It'd be a good time to get some money for that too, especially since people are asking. They have very old textbooks that are not necessarily aligned to the new 2018 standards. They also use mystery science and SEL, they use Wayfinder. For ELA, this year is the first year of using Reading Reconsidered. It was actually created by the team that created Teach Like a Champion. It's one of the recommended curriculum for knowledge-based curriculum. It's aligned with wit and wisdom and what they're using at the high school. So it's a great match. And I heard from a parent that they're really excited to start seeing some of the materials that are coming home. They're going to be reading a lot more text too, and they're upping the homework, which I think is great in terms of not a lot of extra things, but at least some reading at home. And like I said, if a kid can't access the text independently, Learning Ally is available for all kids, and that will read the book to them, and they can read along in the text. They have illustrative math, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and they also have an accelerated track. We used to try to get a lot of kids into algebra. What we found was that was backfiring because not all kids were really succeeding, and then they were getting to high school and having to do algebra again. So we've done a much better job looking at the data. We have a whole system that was created by the math coach. And now we have an accelerated track. So when the kids that get to algebra for 8th grade, traditionally, if we didn't follow their accelerated for those kids, they were missing standards. So those 8th grade teachers were trying to catch kids up with standards and then teach the rest of the curriculum. So now we're identifying kids in 6th grade for that algebra track, and they're getting that accelerated curriculum throughout. There's still room for kids to move in and out, but the system seems to be much better. They're communicating with parents. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of pushback, and it really does seem like the kids who are ready for algebra are getting that, and we're not forcing kids to go faster when they're not ready. I told you last time that investigating history will be for 6th to 7th grade social studies, and 8th grade has been using McGraw-Hill's United States and Massachusetts Government and Civic Life. The science department uses Open Sci Ed, Spanish uses Adios, and the SEL curriculum is created by the school.
Heather, can I just ask one
course.
question about Wit and Wisdom?
Yeah.
Was that based on feedback that you had gotten from the teachers? Because I know originally there was just so much pushback.
So a lot of the pushback that they had, those were complaints across the board, nationally. So they heard that feedback. And the new product that they have, it's so much better. It's just like, it takes all, and I did give you all kind of some of the scope and sequence here and some of the things that have changed. The core of the program's still there. It's knowledge-based, but they've added more fluency and morphology. And like I said, it's much more teacher-friendly. The original teacher manual is just so dense to try to unpack. And the student manuals were not developmentally appropriate.
Because I'm wondering if there's a connection with that and the reading scores that we saw, like, if there's an indirect connection.
Reading scores for Maple Shade and Mountain View?
Well, because there was such discrepancy across different grades, and I'm like, is there a connection between the difficulty?
Well, Maple Shade and Mountain View are all using Wit and Wisdom.
We're using Wit and Wisdom.
They're still using Wit and Wisdom.
Okay.
This is for next year.
Okay.
They are piloting, some grades are piloting in arts and letters this year.
Okay, so I guess
there's
that's what I'm
no
saying,
change.
like the Wit and Wisdom difficulties that teachers are experiencing.
I think with arts and letters,
Connection between those lower.
well, we'll be able to see with arts and letters and the foundations continuing into 4th and 5th grade. And that small group time for kids to have that application time at the K-2 level.
Okay.
All of those things I think are, everything we do, we progress monitor. If it's not working right.
Yeah, I understand, but.
And this was great for the teachers to say, oh, wow, they listened to us.
Right, and I think that's wonderful, but just looking specifically at the reading, it's like even the schools, even when there was a piece of data that was encouraging, we still have some grades that are like 60% of the students are 1 or more grade levels below in reading. It's concerning.
Yeah, and I do think it's helpful, and I did not bring that, and perhaps we could start doing that next year. I think it's super helpful to disaggregate the data.
Very
The aggregate doesn't really tell you much. So I will advocate for that for next year. And then high school, they are doing Odell High School Literacy, which is now going to be digitized. Well, a lot of these open source materials, companies buy them and then create all the bells and whistles. And Great Minds, who owns Wit and Wisdom, will be doing our high school. So there will be some flow. Math uses Reveal Math for Algebra 1, 2, and Geometry. Social Studies uses History Alive. Science is still teacher created. And trying to help them to, of course, we, are possibly in a freeze for curriculum adoption. The problem that's holding up science is right now the only thing that's touted is Open Sci Ed, and there's nothing else really that has been reviewed by the Mass Curate panel. So they want more time, which I get. And then Spanish is Adios, and I have to say the department head for the world languages is really working well to with the 6th, 7th, the 2 Spanish teachers over at Birchland Park, so that there is a cohesive and that vertical alignment. So kids are getting
About their languages?
Latin.
And what curriculum do they use?
That is more teacher created
So we only have Latin and Spanish?
at this point. And Latin is mostly reading and writing. Like there's no way that they don't measure on these tests for like biliteracy speaking because I guess we don't really know how things are pronounced. I don't know. But yeah, so it's much heavier on the reading and writing when it comes to the seal of biliteracy. I do know that.
Oh.
And this is just kind of listing off, over the years, especially during the ESSER, so much professional development has been offered to folks. But the high quality professional development is really when they can get in the moment and continue to work within their school. Like that one and done PD, has been shown it doesn't really work. They need that consistency. And so I just wanted to put in a little plug about, all the things that their coaches are doing and some of the things that we're looking at for next year. But I have mentioned, knowing the curriculum, and I meant to put high quality instruction, but it got cut off. The facilitating the common planning times, which we will continue to improve. Focusing on that curriculum implementation, really being on top of the data and really supporting the principals that way. And supporting the principals in those learning walks and look fors. So that teachers are getting the feedback that they need for those next steps. So the plug for embedded PD. And also just to remind people that we have purchased and will continue to purchase Learning Ally, which provides those audio versions for text for all students, and Google Read and Write and Orbit Note, which are ways for kids to access text. And that also includes Equatio, which is another tool for math, text to speech, speech to text, translation for kids, all kinds of tools. And then that Braining Camp provides digital manipulatives. So we have hands-on manipulatives for kids, but the Braining Camp is nice if we need them right away and I can't go get it, or I'm at home and I need it. So we do have a lot of tools to help those kids, to help all kids access that grade level content and standards. So I just wanted to give you an update on all of that, and if you had any questions, but I didn't want people saying that we're implementing new things, because all of it is connected to things we've already been doing. I wanted you to hear it first from me.
I had some questions about the learning walks.
Yeah.
How often are the coaches going in? Are they looking for things about curriculum or best practices?
Yeah,
or-
so it's been me, the coach, and the principal, so either the ELA coach and the math coach. And quite frankly, because the coaches 3 to 8 are stretched across all those grade levels, we go into a school once a week, usually maybe once every other week, but it's not necessarily like I would like, which is like multiple times a week would be amazing, but multiple weeks.
So I feel like that's.
Well, they're going in once a week, but not necessarily in the same school, because they're at Maple Shade, Mountain View, and Birchland. And I've worked out their schedule so that we're doing that. And then it's with ELA at Meadowbrook, we split the learning walk. So Tracy, the literacy coach, comes to both, go to both foundational skill blocks and also the core literacy blocks, because we're looking for different things. And that's exactly it. We're looking for some pretty general things at this point, just to get people used to looking at trends and, are people implementing the curriculum? What are some needs that we have? And the leadership team is actually looking at the new teacher rubric that was actually official last year, to try to develop some look-fors that we can agree on that are much more curricular focused and not necessarily as general as we're doing right now. Things like what we're looking for, are we supporting all students? Do students have access to Learning Ally? Things like that. How is our internal pacing of the lesson? How is our pacing overall? So that will change and morph. And then for math, we just do math block because there's no other block, and we do those several times. So it's been a lot more walkthroughs, and it's been great having the conversations and that one-on-one time with principals to, look at trackers, see how pacing's going, look at data. The coaches are doing tons around data and make sure kids aren't falling through the cracks, but just looking, even what's going on in the different classrooms, so.
Coaches are there for those 3 schools for Birchland?
So there are only 2.
There's 2.
Yes, they're very stretched out, and it is hard for them to really make an impact anywhere, which is why a lot of what they're doing is supporting teaching and learning for the principals who are doing the best they can, but also are, doing everything, especially Elaine and Connor, who do all of the things, right?
So Meadowbrook
And
has 2.
Steve and Natalie, who have middle school, which is there's never a dull moment.
Right. So there's 2 in Meadowbrook, 2 coaches.
Yep.
Right? And then there's 2 for the other 3 schools.
Yeah, because of the budget cuts, we had to cut it back. But yeah, I have to say it's been really great to have that opportunity, and we're just going to keep moving on it. And one of the things I would love to see is our instructional rounds where we feel comfortable walking into each other's classes, not necessarily to give each other feedback, but just to see each other teach and learn with and from each other. So
Well, especially if one classroom like the data in one classroom
yeah, what's going on? What are some moves we can copy?
is showing like a lot of growth or something like that, I would definitely want my teachers to go look in their
Yep.
classroom.
Yep. A lot of great teaching happening, and I just wanted to update you on where we're at in terms of the materials.
Great,
Kept it quick.
did, nice work, Heather, thank you. Anything else for Heather on the curriculum? Okay. So without objection, I think we will table 6.1, 7.2, and 7.3.
The superintendent evaluation,
Yes.
since he's not here.
Okay.
And the budget discussion, we have something discussed in executive over that. And school choice, we'll put off for another week if there's no objection. Okay,
It's okay.
then we'll go to 7.1, eighth grade MIAA waiver for 2026 spring sports.
I know, right?
Nathan?
No, I reached out to Kevin, and he said that he felt that all the information was right here on the sheet for you, and that the school committee has approved positions in the past. Good to have it.
What page?
I had it.
My document.
So this is for the girls lacrosse team, the boys lacrosse team, and softball. And what it says is the coaching staff, AD, and high school.
He's not freaked out by my germs, you can pass it, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Gary is sorry. I'm not contagious anymore.
Applying for the following eighth grade waivers. The below requested waivers are for eighth graders to play JV only. If the ELHS signups in grades 9 to 12 for these sports exceed the MIAA recommended maximum number to use the JV waiver, then we will not utilize the eighth grade waivers. The JV waivers listed below will hopefully help ELHS field JV teams in the following sports during the 2026 spring season. And again, that's 9 to 12 recommended max number to use for JV waiver. Girls lacrosse 32, 9 to 12 anticipated, we only have 22. Grade 8 past usage was 0 for 2025 and 0 for 2024. The boys lacrosse, it was recommended max is 32, anticipated spring 25 is the same number, 0 and 0. Softball, recommended maximum number to use is 30, anticipated spring 20. Past usage in the spring of 2025 was 4, and spring of 2024 was 4. So he did say that the school committee has always supported this waiver in the past.
Now they're looking for 10 though, right?
It does seem that.
Yeah, these are significant numbers.
Yes, they are dropping.
Discussion. Someone would like to move for these 3 sports for
I'd like to make a motion to approve the eighth grade MIAA waiver for 2026 spring sports as presented.
you want to just list them out, the JV 3, please?
Just the girls lacrosse.
Girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse, and softball.
JV only.
JV only.
Motion made by Antonella. Second by William. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed nay. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We'll let Frank and Kevin know.
Okay. And final discussion in open session, we have East Long Meadow Public Schools district-wide possible grade realignment. Want to start? You want me to start?
I didn't have anything for that.
There was nothing in there. I think it was just going to be just a discussion
Yeah, it's
topic.
Okay.
been- Yeah, sure, please.
So this one has been something I think that you just, I heard you say, like, that would be a good idea. Like, I think everybody in town at one point or another, whether you're on the school committee or a teacher or a parent, has questioned the 3-5 divide at some point, I think. Why is the school district structured the way that it is? So some people have institutional knowledge of this. If you grew up here, you know the history of how things have changed over the years. Other people are maybe newer to town and don't have that context. So no matter where people are at, this structure exists today. And so for me, I asked Greg if we could, I've been asking for a while, actually, if we could put this on the schedule just as just a brief conversation point for right now. I don't have children this age anymore, so I don't have anything personally invested in this other than just what might be best for the students in our district. So I don't want people to think, whether it be in this room or people that are listening or hearing, reports about this meeting, that I'm pushing for something. What I'd like to push for is a conversation, the start of a conversation to talk about what would it look like if we made the decision or did some research about restructuring the grades to make it so the students in this town all attended the same schools throughout their experience here in East Long Meadow Public Schools together, rather than have that 3-5 divide, which for those of you who have children in the district, and even if you don't, it creates an absolute divide, but between families, between students for sure. I have a lot of anecdotal evidence, and I think that the data that we saw today provides the actual data about what that divide can look like, both from a social emotional standpoint, even just kind of through family dynamics, as well as academically, even attendance. I mean, I just even wrote down Mountain View, 3.4% chronic absenteeism, Maple Shade, 7.7%. Okay, so there are glaring discrepancies in the way that the outcomes that are occurring between Mountain View and Maple Shade. The way that the people in this town see those two schools is unbelievable. It's totally negative in a lot of ways. The way that it's compared, Mountain View versus Maple Shade, and the perception in the community is kind of disgusting. And I just wanted to have a conversation about it. I wanted to put it out there. I've done a ton of research on this. And again, I'm not pushing anything. I'm just wanting to start the conversation. I would love to dig a little deeper into all of the implications. There would be a lot of financial things to think about, so many things, transportation, so many different things to think about if we decide to continue this conversation. But what I would love to see would be pre-K, K and 1 at Meadowbrook, 2 and 3 at Mountain View, 4 and 5 at Maple Shade, and then middle and high school stay the same. Again, I'm not tied emotionally or otherwise to this idea. I'm just wondering if this would allow the students in our town to have a more equitable experience in East Long Meadow Public Schools from start to finish. Okay, I'm done.
Well done.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any thoughts, discussion?
We don't even really need to
Yeah,
have
I
one.
was just
I
saying
just
that.
wanted to put it out there into the universe that it's something that I think would really behoove all of us to think a little bit about, maybe do your own research about because I know there would be some challenges. The biggest one being the families that are going to be disturbed by a potential change would obviously potentially be upset. And I would definitely like to acknowledge that. Among other issues that could arise, it would create a situation where the children would have to do one more transition. That might not always be ideal. There's a lot of potential positive outcomes and some challenges. I've actually spoken with Jenny Sullivan about this. She believes that this could have a really positive impact for some of the long-term goals in special education, both financial, of course, but primarily for the students and their needs. So I don't want to speak for her, but she thinks that this could be a very positive thing for the district as well. So that's it.
Okay. We'll bring it back at another point. Roll it over, do your research.
It's interesting. I do remember in the 80s, I believe it was, that they changed the grades at Birchland, because I was in one of those grades.
7th and 8th it used to be.
Yeah, but they brought
6th.
fifth grade back to the elementary school. So I stayed in my elementary school for another year.
Yeah.
Because at one point, they were all neighborhood schools, K through 6. Then they went K to 4.
It was by lines, but our line was very strange. I lived on Westwood, but I went to school all the way in Mountain View.
I
Well, the
lived
lines
off
now
Maple
are-
Shade, I went to Meadowbrook.
So I don't understand how the lines.
The lines now are a little, if you really take a look, because I have, if you really take a look at how those lines are drawn between, that sends certain kids to Maple Shade and certain kids to Mountain View, in some ways, they are very much neighborhood schools, but in other ways, they are very much based in, I think, kind of a financial divide.
It hasn't been updated in a number of years.
Sure has not.
To give you an idea, Mountain View is 18% of their students are low income, and at Maple Shade, it's 34.1%.
Almost double. Yeah.
And I think that we see that particular piece impacting, instruction, attendance, and all of the things.
I do feel like some of the benefits would be that all the kids are getting the same thing.
Even ST Math
And
and
now, I mean,
iReady.
they were talking about how this school does this and this school does that.
And it's logistically hard to get all of the third grade teachers together, you know what I mean?
That's problematic. And also even look at things like the PTO. The socioeconomic divide between the two schools is significant. So when you look at Mountain View and look at the PTO there and what they're able to do potentially for the children in that school, and then you look at Maple Shade and the socioeconomic discrepancy there, that PTO is not able to provide the same experiences. What are those things called, those boards?
Whiteboards?
No,
Those aren't from the PTO.
no, but those are from eLeaf. And I just feel like.
Oh, the Promethean boards.
Yes, and I just feel like it's a cultural.
Smart boards that the majority of Mountain View teachers now have.
Right, and I feel like even though many of those, I don't know if all, but many of them are from eLeaf, I just feel like there's like a completely different culture at one school versus the next. And I don't think it's right for that to be occurring in the same district with two schools and two separate sets of, completely separate sets potentially of learning experiences.
Well, I mean, in terms of the eLeaf grants, being a part of that subcommittee,
Anybody can, I get it.
anybody can
but-
get a grant, and those grants, the process is not biased based on.
No, I understand that.
So I think
Thank you.
that's.
I wasn't.
And I think unfortunately, we are in a very interesting budget time, but it's unfortunate that our teachers have to rely on grant money to have up-to-date technology in their classrooms that many other districts provide for their teachers and don't rely on grants. So,
And whatever the reason is for all of the Mountain View teachers to have written grants for that and Maple Shade maybe not, I don't know. But again, it provides a completely different learning experience for the students at Mountain View than what's happening at Maple Shade. I'm not saying one better than the other. I'm saying completely different. And that perpetuates something that I don't think we want to be perpetuating anymore in this town.
I can also just say, being a part of the PTO, the perception of the PTO commitment is off. They're now, I mean, we're talking about, I don't think I've been at a PTO meeting in Mountain View that there's been more than like 6 or 7. So I don't know that Shade under Katie significantly fewer amount of people who show.
I wasn't talking about the amount of people. I was talking about the amount they're able to raise. That's what I was talking about.
I don't know, because I'm not on that PTO, but I guess I would just be interested in learning more about what other districts have done in terms of how we have created focus programs for like autism and reading support, and what that looks like, when it's from a resource standpoint and standing it up in multiple buildings.
Well, Jenny was able to explain a little bit of that to me and what she shared, and I would definitely ask her to speak in more detail because obviously that's her area, but what she shared was that what she's seeing is that there are families that their children attend Mountain View that need to be attending the specialized programming at Maple Shade, but will not do it because they want to stay at one school versus another. So they're not, so again, I want her to be able to share, more of her perspective, but that's what she shared with me. I talked with her about this. So they're foregoing the services to stay at what is perceived as the better school.
Yeah, and I'm curious more about, given our current financial situation, the budgetary cost of, I'm not sure what it looks like to have people going, but you know what I mean, between.
Different
They're
programs.
probably using similar, I don't know. I don't know enough about who we're using for personnel to manage those, that have to split amongst buildings to keep the cost
We
down.
need a deep look, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
Yep.
for sure, yeah.
And there would probably be more cost to transportation, because a lot of students do walk, specifically to Maple Shade,
Yeah.
and they would now have to go to Mountain View for 2 years, but it's something for further discussion.
Has this been brought up to the leadership team?
No.
No. Oh, all right.
Not
I didn't
officially,
know.
not officially. I've spoke with one or two of them on a side note, but
Okay.
not
I
officially.
didn't know if they expressed any.
I imagine that there would be a little pushback or a little upset. And again, that's why I'm saying really outwardly, I'm not pushing one way or the next. Like, I agree with you, Carrie, it would need a major deep dive into all of everything, the financial component, how it would disturb, families, teaching assignments, all of it. I'm not suggesting that we just like do this in, September. Actually, I did suggest that.
You did.
But I'm not
The point I
suggesting it
said,
now.
it'd be at least a year and a half.
Oh, gosh.
So I am not, I've come down to earth. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that if people are open to a little bit of a deeper dive or some, many further conversations about how this could potentially benefit. And in the end, if we find out that this is not feasible, then it's not feasible. But I think it's an important thing to maybe at least talk about, explore.
I think there's some things that maybe we have already are starting to do that we could do to address some of the things that you raised without necessarily combining them in one building. I mean, why aren't we working more towards alignment and finding opportunities for teachers to work in teams across buildings?
Oh, we are. I have release days and things like that. It's challenging when they're not in the same building. We have our department head meetings. We have department head meetings virtually because by the time one gets to one school, we lost all that time. So, yeah, I mean, it's not impossible.
Never going to address the divide either of the kids being separated and then going into middle school. I mean, I think it's a great thing, but I mean, I'm just speaking for my kids. My kids all went through Maple Shade. They're pretty much friends with their Maple Shade friends. Like, they're in high school and middle school now, but that's like who they're friends with. I'm not saying it's bad. That's great. I love their friends. Wonderful. But there's really a line I'm finding.
Well, I see that. I mean, I could think about my own schooling experience, having I went to Catholic school and as in Springfield, and like certain schools that pulled into Cathedral, like that was the group. I mean, I think that happens anywhere, but I think it also gets back to some of the things that we've heard in terms of the importance of the social emotional learning curriculum and the work that the leadership team does to try to help those students make connections and break out of those, cliques. I mean, the same thing would happen at high school. So what are we doing to try to help them to make those connections?
Okay.
Okay, for another day, we'll bring that back at some
Another
point? Okay, excellent, thank you for starting that conversation. Okay, with that, we have come to the end of our regular session meeting. I would ask that we move to return to executive session. And we'll take a-
Still moved.
Motion made by Antonella. Second by William. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Adjourn from our regular session, and we will move to executive session.